All right, welcome to Forecasting with Friends. Now, I do have friends today. I know it looks like I don't. We have two outstanding people that we're going to be talking to here in just a few minutes because it is Houston Energy and Climate Week. We've been telling you about this for the last 2.5 weeks or so. Well, this is the week. They got all kind of events going on and lots of exciting, sort of a meeting of the minds from all ends of industry to try to come together and well, come up and try to keep the earth the way we want it, nice and clean and functioning well. Speaking of that, we do have developments, of course, in the tropics, and I wanted to give you the latest on what is now Tropical Storm Francine, not yet a hurricane as of this moment. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. This is the 10 a.m. advisory that was released from the National Hurricane Center. It is in the course of strengthening, though, right now. That pressure you see in the upper right-hand corner where it says 988. Well, this morning at 4 a.m., it was at 992 millibars. It dropped to 990 at 7 a.m. and now 988. So the lower the pressure is, the deeper that low gets, the greater the contrast is between the high pressure outside of the storm and the low pressure in the storm, and therefore the wind speeds up, gets pushed harder. And so this means that the storm is going to strengthen. So right now it's predicted by the Hurricane Center to become a Category 1 hurricane by this evening and then strengthen a bit more. Notice there's Houston on the left-hand side of your screen. The center of circulation is going to stay comfortably far away from us. However, we are still going to feel some of the impacts from the system. Looks like it's going to have an impact from places like Lafayette, Louisiana, Morgan City, Louisiana, Houma, back over to Slidell and New Orleans, and then even up to around Jackson, Mississippi, and potentially heavy rain around Memphis as well. The Houston-Galveston area, what sort of impacts are we getting? What sort of watches are we under? Well, the coastline from the border of Jefferson County and Chambers County, basically Chambers County, the Bolivar Peninsula, Galveston Island, and then all the way down to Matagorda Bay and points southward, all those areas under a tropical storm watch. And that does include Galveston Bay, so that includes you in LaPorte and in Kemah and Seabrook and San Leon and Texas City, just on the water, tropical storm watch. And this means that tropical storm conditions are possible, meaning that we could see 40-mile-per-hour winds at some point. This also, by the way, is mainly to warn you about coastal flooding as well, which is going to be an issue for us. And here's why. So when we take a look ahead at the Futurecast wind gust, and you see that spin at the bottom of your screen, those bright purple colors out there in the Gulf, I mean, that's telling us areas where we have between 50 and 100-mile-per-hour winds. And that's going to really move that water out there in the Gulf of Mexico and push it up against our coastline. So we are concerned about very high wave action, beach erosion, obviously very dangerous rip currents, but also the chance for some coastal flooding. That doesn't affect you at all if you're inland, just right along the coastline. And then from there, you'll see those wind gusts heading into tomorrow, in excess of tropical storm force and probably hurricane force over there around New Orleans and points eastward, even affecting areas as far east as Florida. So this is the outlook for the day today. And as far as what's coming our way in the extended forecast, we are expecting the weather to really clear out pretty quickly behind this system. The impacts of Francine are going to be short-lived today, tonight, tomorrow, and then they are going to clear on out of here. The main concern for you today, if you don't live at the beaches, if you don't live along the coastline, is that we could have and probably will have some scattered thunderstorms. It's going to get a little bit breezy at times as well, but overall, if you're in Katy, if you're in Sugar Land or the Woodlands, you're not going to have a huge impactful day because of what's going to become Hurricane Francine. But I tell you what, if you're on Jamaica Beach or Crystal Beach or one of those spots, you will notice a big time impact today, tonight, and early tomorrow. All right, I want to keep this first block of the show short because we want to talk to Katie and Trevor coming up next, also about what is happening with Houston Energy and Climate Week and some amazing technology that is going to blow your mind and could revolutionize all of the carbon that we're releasing into the air. It might do away with a lot of it. So stick around for more right after this. All right, I'm so glad that you all are watching right now because we have two terrific guests. We have Katie Maynard and we have Trevor Best. working on two completely different sort of angles of sort of the same ultimate goal, though, and that works into what we're talking about, which is Houston Energy and Climate Week. Katie, I'd like to start out with you because you've been really organizing and getting the word out about this whole event that's been going on now. This is the week, Houston Energy and Climate Week. What successes have you seen so far?
Well, I think the biggest success is talking about energy and climate and getting people excited about the challenges that we have ahead here in Houston with the energy transition. The job opportunities, the opportunities to make things better. Mm-hmm. So it's been a great week. We just started kind of yesterday, so my feet are a little sore already. Yeah. But you know, 75 self-organized events or more at this point, despite the weather. Yeah. You know, New York has an event that, you know, I think it's 600 something events. So I expect next year will be much bigger because the response has been great.
So what makes this different is that, because a lot of other cities and internationally have generally Climate Week, you know, they'll have a Climate Week. Houston is the energy capital of the world. We call it Energy and Climate Week, and it is different. It has a little bit of a different vibe from what a lot of these other places are doing.
Yeah, you know, for us, I think the real big difference is we kind of see this as a unity opportunity. We need to bring people together. We need to talk about energy and climate. This is the energy capital, but also the energy transition capital. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting the response we've gotten even outside of Houston. So other cities calling, very interested. So we're hoping that this gives Houston a bit of a boost, mm-hmm. and we get more people to come on down here to the what we now call the Energy Rodeo.
Oh, the Energy Rodeo?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay. Well, taking part in the Energy Rodeo, Trevor Best, who's the CEO of Sisg Plasmonics, which if you haven't heard of that, he'll tell you about it here in a minute. It's pretty amazing. But suffice it to say, Trevor, what's exciting about this is that we can make an energy transition, still be the energy capital of the world, still have traditional petroleum products and exploration and everything else, but use it in a new way, a cleaner way. And the technology is unbelievable that you've come up with. Can you kind of tell everybody, I mean, what is Plasmonics? I don't think I've ever heard of it. It sounds like a rock band, actually.
Hey, thank you. You know, we've been working very hard to get our technology, you know, developed and out into the market. And I can proudly say that it is from Rice University. Okay. So two professors there, Professor Hollis and Nordlander, started to really deep dive into this rabbit hole of a field of science called nanophotonics, which is the study of how light and matter interact at the nanoscales. Mm-hmm. They continued this until they had made what is a near perfect light harvester called a plasmonic nanoparticle in the 2000s. Mm-hmm. And in 2016, they started taking these plasmonic nanoparticles and decorating them with traditional catalysts that are used in the chemical and energy industries to make things like fuel, fertilizer, all of the products that we need every day to live. Mm-hmm. And what they saw was a dramatic improvement in how these are made. So Sisg has taken that technology out of Rice University, mm-hmm. which can really only be described using quantum mechanics, and built a chemical reactor around it. Our chemical reactors are powered by artificial lights driven by renewable electricity instead of needing to burn fossil fuels. Yeah. So this is important because if our technology is adopted at scale, when you drive through the ship channel, all the refineries and chemical plants there, they will look the exact same. They can use the same feedstocks, like energy-rich, petroleum-based feedstocks, or carbon-free renewable feedstocks, and they can use these without needing any smokestacks. So we can use the same types of things we're doing today to make the same molecules that build all of the products around us today, but mm-hmm. without putting any emissions into the atmosphere.
It's amazing to even think about it. You know what I mean? The technology that goes into that. Well, how did you even learn that this technology existed and then have this idea to apply it toward this?
So it's a pretty amazing journey, actually. I started a business degree at Texas Tech University. I became a quality engineer in industry at Baker Hughes, met my co-founder, Dr. Suman Kadiwada, who's an R&D scientist. We were both developing new products for Baker Hughes, and we saw the writing on the wall with the energy transition late last decade. We went searching for a new kind of technology that could disrupt this space. When we found this technology at Rice University, there's actually another branch of science using this. It was for medical devices, and very interestingly, we're speaking with a meteorologist, another local meteorologist in town, Frank Billingsley. They used this technology in a company called Nanospectra to help treat his testicular cancer.
Oh.
And so whenever we saw like, oh hey, this field of science is proven, this tech can work, and they're applying it to the chemical industry, we knew something interesting was happening.
Wow.
Decided to quit our jobs and start the company here.
I wonder if Frank's watching right now. Shout out to you, Frank. I hope you're enjoying your retirement. but that's amazing. So realistically, we know that we don't build new refineries, right? I mean, it just doesn't happen. What would be the, well, pun intended, what would be the catalyst for companies like Exxon and BP and Shell and then all the myriad other companies that make chemicals and stuff to go through what would probably be an expensive overhaul of their plants, wouldn't it be? I mean, how long would something like that take? What would be their incentive and things like that?
So kind of two big points here. One is that what we're seeing in the market is there really isn't much of a green premium. People aren't willing to pay dramatically more, especially for commodity chemicals like fuel or fertilizer, for clean. And so this is actually a very strategic selling point for Sisg Tech. Our tech is actually closing on 80% energy efficiency, and because we're using light instead of burning fuel, the conditions in our reactor are very mild. So we can build our reactors out of cheaper materials. And so what would the catalyst be? It would actually be that we can save them money. And so
that's always what it comes down to.
Yes.
I mean, that's what's going to get people's attention. Definitely.
And the other piece of this is that energy transitions take time. So we aren't going to transition from what we're doing today to a future that we enable tomorrow. It generally takes decades. If you go in the past, at one point society ran burning wood, and then it switched to coal, then it switched to oil, then it switched to natural gas. Now it's in the process of switching to renewables. These transitions take 3 decades or so on average to happen. We're at the beginning of this one, and with exciting tech like ours, we're hoping to make it move faster, but reality is what it is.
Yeah. So Katie, so far this week, I guess one of the hardest parts of getting a solution is that you have to get people to sort of break, we were talking about this before the show, about sort of breaking out of their maybe either political or ideological corners and sort of saying, well, okay, how can we come together and actually do something that's going to actually make a difference if we actually do want to make a difference on these things? So have you seen that? Have you seen people kind of coming maybe from both sides and talking about things that they usually don't, because they might not usually be in the same circles talking about these sorts of things?
Well, yeah, I think the most encouraging thing is that we're having the conversations. And I also think that when you point out, when you kind of look at the history of, environmental policy, look at all of this, every administration, every politician, so to speak, has advocated for. I think because of the political nature of our social media and all of these things, we kind of lose sight that actually we all want clean air and clean water. We all want
everybody
affordable,
would want that.
absolutely. I mean, affordable, reliable energy, right? But we can't just turn it off and turn it on, right? And one of the questions we asked yesterday of the audience was, what are you willing to give up? The 4 p.m., the 7 p.m., the 10 p.m. Amazon packages. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff, right, that adds up. So consumers really need to start thinking about how are they going to play a role in this. But the most exciting thing I think that consumers can play a role in is being a part of the workforce, being a part of the solution. There are going to be an immense number of jobs. We will see some jobs go away, but we're going to see a lot of jobs move into this new space around the technology. And that's what's exciting, I think, because Houston is uniquely positioned with the talent that we have here already, to take advantage of it.
Yeah, because I think that is part of the pushback, and a lot of you, watching, probably you have friends, you have family members who work either in the oil patch or they work in the petrochemical complex, energy quarter, whatever it is, and that's your livelihood. And you don't want to hear that that's going to be going away, but this transition, like you said, it might take 20 or 30 years that you take the know-how that used to go into doing it one way, and you could transition still with hopefully a good paying job, just into doing it a different way.
Well, and I think the other thing that's interesting about the industry at large is you don't have to be an engineer, so I'm not an engineer. I tell people I'm a people engineer because I like the people side of the business, but you don't need to go to you don't have to go to college, right, to get into this space. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of different opportunities. There's also going to be a lot of need for project managers and people who have accounting skills, right, because we're going to be building, right, a lot of things and a lot of infrastructure. So it's a huge opportunity to make people aware that this is a great path forward in terms of a career, mm-hmm. and Houston is leading the way.
Well, I have a question about that. These chemical reactors that you use in your company, so Rice University, I assume this came from like the physics department at Rice.
Yes.
What goes into building those things? Are they large? Are they small? I mean, give everybody an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah, so I like to jokingly say that it is a Trevor-sized reactor cell. So if you want to imagine how big one is, it's about this big. It's about 6 feet tall, 2.5 feet in diameter. They look a little like a warp core out of Star Trek or something. Yeah. We have some pictures online. If you look up Sisg plasmonics, you can find them. Whenever we light up the lights inside, they glow bright orange. And so we put them together into modular containers, and then we stack those containers to achieve production at scale. Mm-hmm. So when you see one light up in our facility here in Houston, looks like that warp core. Whenever you actually put them into a chemical plant or a refinery, it's a bunch of containers stacked onto each other. So very modular, very easy to deploy.
In the future, do you see this? So we've been talking about replacing some of the processes that they use to like turn petroleum into these different chemicals, and your technology changing that. What other things do you see it maybe doing in 10, 20, 30 years?
So this is a platform technology that can be broadly applied across the chemical and energy space. So whenever we look at our near-term possibilities, we're focusing on hydrogen and synthetic fuels. Hydrogen is a very interesting feedstock. You make fertilizer from it. You use it in a lot of different chemical processes that end up making all of the products that you see around you every day. And then clean fuels is a drop-in replacement for gasoline, aviation fuel, etc. So those are our first target areas, but beyond that, we see a lot of applications for things deeper in the chemical value chain. These aren't things that most of you interact with on a day-to-day basis, but
society uses it, and it's really important.
Yeah, and so if you pause and think about like what are these molecules used in, just look in the room around you, like every phone, every TV, all the packaging for food. Look at every component in your car. Yeah. It is ubiquitous. Yeah. There is nothing on this screen right now that doesn't need those chemicals in some way to be made. Mm-hmm. And we see our technology being able to actually be applied across that whole space to kind of decarbonize the base level of human society. That's the goal.
So, well, we're off to a good start. Katie, let me just end with, tell the folks watching, how can they get involved for the rest of the week? Because this goes through this Tuesday, so this goes through Friday. Mm-hmm. And I know some of these are open to the public, or at least they're going to be streamed so that people could listen to some of the discussions. How can folks get involved?
You'll just go to climateweekhouston.com. And we had our opening ceremonies yesterday. So if you click on opening ceremonies, you can watch the stream from yesterday. And then there will be events throughout the week. So you'll see the calendar up. There's all kinds of stuff going on. We even have a fashion event where people are going to do a fashion swap and talk about sustainability. So something for everyone. And our closing ceremonies will be on Friday at University of St. Thomas. So we'd love to have people come out and watch online as well.
And I imagine you've probably gotten a really positive feedback from, except for one lady.
Well, you know, it's exactly that one lady, right? No. I mean, no, we've got a lot of great feedback, and I think that's a sign that it's time to do more of this.
And this is the inaugural year, so I'm sure you fully plan on
Oh yeah,
the second annual next year.
Absolutely. And people keep asking, are we going to do it during hurricane season? We kind of, we're debating maybe keeping it. You know, it's a front of mind conversation right now. So, yeah, except for the weather, it's a little warm out there. But yeah.
Okay. So. Well, thank you both very, very much for coming in. Fascinating. And follow along with this technology, because it sounds like it's going to be the the thing. I'm telling you what. And coming out of Houston and Rice University and Texas Tech grads and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much for coming in. Don't go away, because I'll have the latest tropical update for you, and I'll let you know how Francine is going to be progressing here over the next couple of days and the impacts it might have on you. All right, welcome back. Let's get you up to date on the tropical storm soon to become a hurricane. So here it is. That center of circulation is really nicely visible on the radar imagery coming out of Brownsville. So you can see that spinning right there, and it'll eventually coalesce into an eye, although it hasn't really done that just yet. So let me share with you the Fox model. This is our exclusive Fox model, which I've adjusted these streamlines here so that you're only seeing the white lines if the wind is above 40 miles per hour. So at or above tropical storm force. So we'll pause it here 8 p.m. tonight. We'll probably see some heavy downpours right along the coastline and some scattered thunderstorms throughout the day inland. Although, as I mentioned before, those of you around the greater Houston area, and especially west and basically most of those suburbs, you're not going to notice anything too nasty out there today. Here's the system ramping up, heading into Wednesday or tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. and then finally making its way really dangerously toward this area here of the communities around Vermilion Bay, Louisiana, with what could be a significant storm surge and also a lot of high winds and a chance for a storm surge around New Orleans as well, Lake Pontchartrain area. This is the spaghetti plot showing all of the recent runs of our ensemble models and the GFS and so forth. And notice that the line is now pretty far away from the Houston-Galveston area, so we're not looking for any sort of a sudden turn. Wind probabilities here, the purple areas where we have the highest chance of seeing tropical storm force winds, and it really is just a moderate chance right along the beaches is where we're looking at the greatest chance for seeing 40-mile-per-hour winds here. Here's the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and it does show the system approaching the coastline here of Louisiana coming up tomorrow afternoon, most likely. It might be the mid to late part of the afternoon. Finally, let me just give you a look at this. Here's our 7-day forecast, and the effects of Francine will be felt today, mostly for our coastal areas. Stay out of the water. It's just really not going to be safe. Very, very strong rip currents, and the waves are going to be getting larger and larger through the day as well. Fox 26 storm alert day for today and early tomorrow just along the coast. Be safe out there.